birds are, for me, are like the carrot on the end of the stick. It's like there's always something new that I need to see. Well, I need to go over here, and so many places that I never would have been to, would never even have chosen to go to. I mean, places like, Mica Creek rather, in Mount Isa, just isn't somewhere I don't think I would ever choose to go and visit. But I went there and saw Calcadoon grass wrens,
Yeah.
and 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 it was beautiful. It was gorgeous up there, and I mean, just so many places all across this wonderful continent that I wouldn't have seen if I hadn't been looking for birds.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Birding Today podcast, where birders come together to discuss the joy of birding. I'm your host, Guillaume Doerig. You can also call me Gil, by the way, if you like, which is what they call me at my work, and I actually quite like it, and it's easier to say as well. So, let's jump right into this episode today, because I'm absolutely excited for this one, because my guest today has actually made his living as a humorous singer-songwriter and entertainer. He recorded 3 albums of original songs that can be heard on satellite radio, YouTube, and Spotify. And of course, he's also a passionate birder and has written about a couple traveling and birding the entire continent of Australia in a camper without killing each other. Our guest has been visiting Australia for over 20 years and became a permanent resident 10 years ago. And it's an absolute honor to have him on the show. Please welcome our Bruce Richardson, everyone. How are you, Bruce?
I'm good. This is exciting. I'm excited as well.
It's going to be a cracking episode. So thanks for the time, and let's get right into the first question of the show, which is, what aspect of birding brings you joy?
I was going to. Can you actually read that? It's a quote from John Buchan, who was a 19th century Scottish novelist.
Yes, and that's a quote of that's in the book as well, isn't it? That quote: "The pursuit of what is elusive but attainable, a perpetual series of occasions for hope." Yeah.
Yep. He wrote it originally about fishing. He said the allure of fishing is that. But when I'd always loved the quote, and I realized that is the essence of birding to me. It's hope. It's every time you go out, you don't know. You might, what you might see and what you hope to see. And it's, hope. Hope is a very important word to me. So, so I had that tattooed on my.
Yeah, it's interesting that that's from fishing. That really, let's talk about that a bit. The parallels between fishing and birding, because it's strange. Mm.
I was a passionate saltwater sportsman in the 80s, and I even set a International Game Fish Association world record for a fish called a tautog off of Virginia in the U.S. But fishing and birding is very similar. You get up early. You I was going to say you drink while you do it, but that's not a good example. No, it's I don't drink, by the way. I've been sober for quite a long time. Well, you've read the book. It's in the book that
Absolutely. Yes.
The parallels between fishing and birding are amazing. Birding can be a lot cheaper, but anything can be as expensive as you want it to be,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what people spend on fishing tackle and stuff, we spend on optics and
yeah. They can be expensive, can't they?
oh yes, but it is the pursuit of what's elusive. It's looking for something. Seeking is what I am a seeker of. I collected ukuleles for a while, which actually, I loved the quote too. And I listened to Harry, I will never try to say Harry's last name, but your interview with Harry, my dear amigo from Finland. And when he said anything worth doing is worth overdoing, that is me. If I become interested in something, I will become passionate about it. There's a meme that I made that says there's a fine line between obsession and passion. I ignore that line. And I do,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great way to kind of to keep learning, isn't it? Because you're constantly exposing yourself to new things.
Yeah, that's one of the, another one of the, I mean, there's a zillion things about birding that I love, but the fact that I'll never know everything. I was birding just before we came back to to Australia. It was just after the year we went back to the US for several months to gather things together that had to be done. And I went birding with Ken Kaufman, who arguably is probably the world's top birder. I don't know, or most, he's incredible. And what he knows and what he's written and is amazing. But I went birding with him. He came down and visited us in North Carolina, and watching him figuring out, seeing something and realizing there's so many things he doesn't know. He's learning stuff every day, and he knows way more than I'll ever know. And there's no end to. There's no like, oh, okay, I've done it now. I've learned.
I've reached the end.
Yeah, there is not. It goes as far as you want it to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, during your travels, and especially during the travels of this beautiful book on Australian birding year, which I just finished last week, you certainly had, and there's your copy as well. Look at that. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have it so I can refer to it when I'm doing. Well, not necessarily like in the middle of an interview, but when I'm doing promotional posts and things about it, and I'll say I wrote about that in chapter, blah blah, and I have to look up what chapter it is.
Yeah. But, it's just a beautiful book, and I'm sure many of our listeners will have read it. And so let's talk a little bit about about the book, because so at the origin, at the outset, what was it that made you want to write a book like this?
To preserve the year for me, to fully realize what we had done. I have a hard enough time. It's what made me a good entertainer. It's what makes a lot of people who entertain or whatnot good at what they do, is the wanting to understand it themselves, wanting to appreciate for themselves what they've, whether they wrote a good song, whether they, wrote a good joke or whatever. And the travel of, the birding and travel for a year was this phenomenal accomplishment, but I didn't want it to just languish as, tons of photos on my hard drive and some blogs that I wrote during the, I wanted to pull it all together.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And I had read one of the big influences, or a couple of the big influences on my becoming a birder. I became a birder late in life. I didn't start my list until 2009. So, you have people that talk about when they started birding when they were 5 and stuff. I didn't. I was fishing then, but it was just I wanted to preserve it for myself, and so I have this, this, I can pick it up and see where I was, when and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a physical manifestation of that year, There's something important, there's something amazing that you can hold something. Yeah.
It's a physical manifestation of that year. I mean, when I'm long gone, I loved the first time someone showed me a photo of it in a library. To the idea of something that I wrote about something I did being in a library is, long after I'm gone, hopefully somebody may pick that up and read about this guy. But what I started to say that I didn't actually get back to was that I had read Kingbird Highway by Ken Kaufman, brilliant big year story, and The Twitch, The Big Twitch by Sean Dooley here, and those had influenced me to become a birder, and this was before I was really a birder. And I can remember particularly, since I'm in Australia, the reading The Big Twitch and the places that Sean Dooley talked about. And I thought, I'll never see, and now I've been to all those places or almost all of those places. He did a Torres Strait trip, and I have not yet done one of those. But I've also been to places that he hasn't been since then. And, it's, so those books, their influence on me made me want to record what we had done. Although it was not a big year. That's an important distinction to make. There were decisions that we made. My wife was adamant that she did not want us to do a big year. She had known, we know John Weigel and his lovely wife, Robin, well. And John has set the record that I think probably won't be broken in Australia. But she knew what a big year entailed, the travel and keep going for numbers. And she had said, no, I won't do that. I want to do, this, I'll do the travel and stuff. But we're not going to go for the big year number. And we didn't. There are examples, and I think I've mentioned them in the book. I mentioned in the book that it wasn't a big year, at least a couple of times. But I still have people that think of it as a big year. And 640 birds as a couple is pretty big. But it wasn't like we didn't go out to Rottnest Island and get and tick the pheasant.
Right. Yeah. It wasn't about the numbers as such, although it was exciting to kind of see how far you would get.
It was actually John Weigel who said, when Lynn was saying we are not going to do a big year, and John said, you're going to be birding. I mean, if you didn't you'd be mad if you didn't keep a list of what you saw together. And so that's what became the difference of, okay, it's not a big year. We'll just see how many birds we can see together as a couple without, pushing for the number.
And I think what makes the book engaging is that it's not only about the birds, you have all these dynamics with different people and your own struggles, and that makes it a real story, which is, it is a story. And that's what really enticed me as well as the beautiful birds and the beautiful photos that are in the book as well. But it's not only about that, it's about the journey and the people and your experiences, I think.
Yes. Well, thank you. That's what I wrote about what happened and I wrote about it from my viewpoint and what I felt about it. And so, I mean, it's me. It's you, as I've said about my songs and my book. If you've read my book, you've pretty much met me. You're not going to be, too surprised about anything if you've read the book, And it's the same thing with what I used to tell people. If you've seen me perform, you've met me. That's me on stage. On stage, it's a more on me. It had its everything had its timing and whatnot, as opposed to right now, but because I was performing, but it was me, genuinely me, and the book is genuinely me.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on this as well. I just remembered that I like there's this kind of theme that runs along the book, which is tears in the rain, and that's why you wanted to preserve their experiences. You know, I love that. I really like that. You know,
the quote from Blade Runner.
yeah.
Yep.
I think it's a great way to describe how memories can be lost, because like certainly even at my relatively young age, there's stuff that are lost in the past that I haven't preserved or written about or done anything to maintain up until this day. It's just in the past, and like tears in the rain. So I just thought I think that's a beautiful kind of quote to encourage others also to kind of make memories tangible and like we were mentioning, physically manifested.
Yes. Well, that's what I know. At some point, you're going to ask about photography, but that's what photography has become for me now: is memory shots, and taking the emphasis off of, particularly getting the emphasis off of, I got to get a better shot of. There was a stick in front of the, look at the damn bird and appreciate it and get a shot to remember it. But, unless you're working for National Geographic and you're trying to do the cover shot, that's the memories.
Absolutely, yeah. And actually, we can jump forward to that section, because I did want to read just a quick passage from the book, which really spoke to me. It's on page 171 if anyone wants to read along or whatever. But it really did speak to me. So this is where you're talking about listing and ticking in photography. I have been working on pulling away from the emphasis on getting a photo. I want to put more emphasis on experiencing the bird, seeing it through my binoculars, not only seeing it later on my laptop. I have really begun to hate the first question every time one sees a new bird being, "Did you get a photo?" as if that is the end all of birding. Yeah, absolutely.
That has that. I don't know if it still is. Well, I don't know if it still is, as there was a period of time where it did seem like every single time that I would see a new bird, people would say, before they said, before they asked anything else, "Did you get a photo? Did you get a photo?" And it began, and it put that emphasis on it, so that there were some birds that I did not get a photo of, but I saw and clearly identified and knew what it was, but I didn't get a photo, and I felt disappointment. I think that is in the book, and it was close to the beginning where we ran into. There was a time in the beginning of the year when Lynn had gotten a life bird. It wasn't a life bird for me, but it was a Mallee emu wren, and I hadn't gotten a photo of it, and I was feeling this really down, like I'd failed, and it hit me. No, I helped her find this beautiful little endangered bird and saw it beautifully, but I didn't get a photo of it, and I was letting that disappoint me. I was letting it wreck the feeling of letting it ruin that good feeling. So that was a point that I can remember, the exact point that I got thinking, I want to pull away from putting the emphasis on getting a photo.
Yeah. It's really interesting because, so why do you think you were disappointed and frustrated? Is it because, like, it links back to what we were saying about having something to remember and experience by? Because if you don't have a photo, then all you have to rely on is your memory, I suppose.
And words. Writing about what you saw. So that's, that again is coming back to why I wrote the book and why I've written another book.
What struck me also was the constant presence or the constant mention of how useful Facebook was to you and the connections you made through Facebook. So is that still a big tool for you in birding? Like, is that still something you go to get information and make new connections, Facebook, or?
It is, and it isn't. Some people have pulled away from Facebook because there is become such a divisive world, is politically and politically, and so it's not I don't I'm not on Facebook as much as I used to be, but I am on there a lot with we have the book Facebook page, an Australian Birding Year, the book, and I'm on that a lot, and I check on my friends and I keep in, but it is still my main tool, and it's the main. I keep a close watch on the Australian Twitchers page. That's the the go-to information of a new bird showing up somewhere.
Yeah.
Although it's mostly frustrating now with the virus going on and not being able to travel, but to some places. But anyway, it's still very important to me, and it was hugely important during the book, during the year of travel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it means you can keep in touch and connect with other birders to ask information and pass on different sites and locations and yeah, I think it's a wonderful thing. Yeah, but you're right. I think there's been a kind of a gradual shift, maybe away from Facebook a little bit, or something's happened. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of there are people I know who say they don't do Facebook anymore and they're on Instagram, which is owned by Facebook. But and I'm on Instagram and Twitter now, just to sort of spread out over, and a lot of that has to do with wanting to share the book, to promote the book.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
But still, Facebook is, I have dear friends all around the world, and not only that I've met, but also friends I haven't met, like Harry. But and Facebook is the way that I keep in touch with them,
I wanted also to kind of shift to the future, because I know that you're working on a follow-up book. So how's that coming along? How's that going?
More Australian Birding Tales is I have finished the text of it, and I'm just waiting for it's going to be again John Beaufoy Publishing, and his editor will be working on it and then sending it back to me saying, why did you write this, or whatnot. And and that's the point I'm at now. I'm just waiting for them to start putting it together. It's supposed to come out later this year. I mean, they hopefully it will. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I finished the text on it and I chose the photos to go with it. There's been a lot of birding and travel that has gone on that I've done since the Australian Birding Year, and it's some interesting stuff. I mean, there's things like I can look up to my left and see the picture of me swimming over a whale shark that happened off Christmas Island, and that was just, I was on a birding trip, and we found out that whale sharks were being seen close, and the guy that it was Richard Baxter's tour, and Richard had a guy that would take us out on a boat to do snorkeling if we wanted to, and he said, we can go out and we'll probably see whale sharks. And that was one of the biggest experiences. I had a whale shark done on this.
Oh wow. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah.
On this one. And that was, again, birds led me to that. I would not have been on Christmas Island. I also fell in love with Cocos Island. Did a week on Cocos and a week on Christmas. And I would never have been there if I wasn't a birder, if I hadn't been going to look for birds, and while I was looking for birds, I saw, I got to go and swim above within.
Wow.
It came up under me, and it came up under me closer than I would have gone to it. It was an amazing, phenomenal. The back of a whale shark looks like an Aboriginal painting.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's a great comparison. Yeah. Wow.
It was moving. It was. My friend Jenny Spry, she was in the water with me. It was 4 of us in the water, I believe. And we got back into the boat and we hugged each other. And she said, "That was rapturous." And I thought, that's perfect.
Wow. Yeah.
So she'll be quoted in the new book.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. Yeah, that sounds amazing. And it's just another example of there is a spiritual component, I think, to birding and the experiences that come with birding, such as a whale swimming with a whale shark. Like, it's really incredible, and it really is the gateway to appreciating nature, for me at least, because birds are everywhere. That's kind of my tagline. Like, birds are everywhere, so necessarily that's the way you're going to enter into this beautiful natural world and the appreciation for a natural world. Yeah.
Yes, and it leads you on. I talk in the new book. I mentioned that birds for me are like the carrot on the end of the stick. It's like there's always something new that I need to see. That's, well, I need to go over here, and so many places that I never would have been to, would never even have chosen to go to. I mean, places like, the Micah Creek rather, in Mount Isa, just isn't somewhere I don't think I would ever choose to go and visit. But I went there and saw Calcadoon grass wrens.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. It was gorgeous up there. And I mean, just so many places all across this wonderful continent that I wouldn't have seen if I hadn't been looking for birds.
Yeah, yeah. And one of my favorite parts of the book as well is when you're in and around the Broome Bird Observatory, because that's a great part. It's because it's such a legendary place in Australia and indeed worldwide for birds that I loved reading about that and the descriptions, and yeah, lovely.
Broome was a delightful part of the year. It was so hot though, and that's why we actually were going to just stay there for a week or 10 days. We stayed there for almost 3 weeks, right at 3 weeks, because we were waiting for the temperature to go down a bit, because we were going to travel north and west from there, which we did, as you know. But yeah, it was delightful to spend that time there.
Yeah, just I can imagine. I've never been. I'd love to. One day I'll go when all this COVID stuff is a bit calmer. But yeah.
Oh God. I know the stress is horrible.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so just to kind of wrap up the section of the book, I know that I think I know the answer already, but there's so many destinations in the book that you describe and that you really love. But what's the place that if you had to choose one to go back to, for the rest of your life, which one would it be?
Had to? Because I knew you were going to ask that question, and so I got thinking. I came up with 3. One of them being Broome Bird Observatory.
Right.
But one, if I had to choose one, Kingfisher Park Birdwatchers Lodge.
Mm.
I love Carol and Andrew who own it. But it is a magical place, and it's the place that I think most out of the Big Twitch, Sean Dooley's book, before ever I thought I'd ever even get up there and see that. It sounded so delightful, and it was, and it is, and I went back to it, and I keep in regular touch with Carol, and I will go back there again. So that is a magical place. Plus, it's a jumping off point for, to go up into the Iron Range, which is one of the other places that I would say, if to a birder coming to Australia, if you could only go to one place, the Cape York, I guess, would be, the Iron Range.
Yeah.
But my favorite place, Kingfisher Park Birdwatcher Lodge.
Yeah, fantastic. It just, that your adoration for that place just shines through the pages. It's really a delight.
I got a lovely message on Facebook from Carol Isles that said, to you and the world, I just want to say we had 3 or 4. Oh hell, I should have written this down. Well, I copied it and pasted it somewhere in a list of things. Anyway, they'd had 3 or 4 bookings that came in like in the same week that were all people that were coming there because they'd read about it in my book. And I thought, well, that's exactly what I want the book to do. To share my love of places so that other people can love them too, hopefully,
Yeah, the sharing, of these natural wonders is important, and Australia has so many of those things, and that leads me on to your perception of Australian birding as an American. How is it different? I really love this, and I talked about this with Harry regarding Finland and Australia and the differences in birding between Finland and Australia. But in this case, what are the differences in birding between the US and Australia, do you think?
As far as the actual going birding, it's not particularly different. A good birder in Australia birds like a good birder in the US birds. I mean, they're you gather information, you look for the birds, you listen, which I have a real difficult time with. It's the birding itself is very very similar.
Right.
The difference in the birding world is that one of the differences is in the US you've got birding festivals that are huge.
Yeah.
You've got the Biggest Week in American Birding, which it breaks my heart that we were going to do the launch of an Australian birding year at the Biggest Week, and this was planned before COVID hit. When I was there before the pandemic and all, you had the Biggest Week in American Birding, which is where we got Lifer Pie. You had the Rio Grande Valley Birding Festival, and those two specifically draw thousands of bird watchers, and so you meet all of these these other birders, and you meet the people that wrote the books and write the books, and the people that the guides and whatnot. And in Australia we don't have birding festivals. I mean, I know there's one sort of festival that happens in Sydney that I've never gone to it. I don't know. Are you familiar with it?
I think there might be one in Sydney and also one in Catherine in the Northern Territory. I think there's one up there, but why do you think that is then, that there aren't any big birding festivals here? Is it solely due to numbers and the popularity of birding?
I think it's due to numbers.
Yeah.
Pure. I mean, that's when again, mentioning John Weigel went to the Biggest Week in American Birding with me. There actually is a picture of him in the book where he's helping us plan our year.
Yes.
At a table in Ohio at the Biggest Week in American Birding. And he loved it. And he said, we've got to do something like this in Australia.
Uh-huh.
And that never went anywhere, which just didn't. And it predominantly, we figured it was because of the numbers. It's hard. It would be hard to get something like that sorted because there aren't enough birders. There aren't enough people. I mean,
Yeah.
so I think it's number. Yeah. To answer your question succinctly, I think it has to do with numbers.
I like exploring that because like birding is such a global thing, you know. That's what makes it so great for anyone anywhere in the world, you know, to start birding and yeah, I just like exploring the differences, and also not only in the birding itself, but in the hobby of birding, or the passion and the joy of birding, how it's different everywhere in the world, and I'm sure people listening will agree that it's, and you know, and that's kind of the joy of going somewhere that's completely new. Like for example, in 2016, I went to French Guiana, which is north of Brazil. It's a department of France, an overseas department of France, and I can go because I have a French passport. And just the newness of it, and not being familiar with, I think I was familiar with one call before going, you know, because I just went kind of on a whim sort of thing. And you know, going birding somewhere completely new, first of all, it's very humbling, because you know, if you stay in the same place birding, you get quite good at birding. But when you go somewhere new, it's like, I don't know anything about this place, so I have to learn. I have to go back to the bottom of the ladder and learn about this place. And yeah, that's in short, that's just why I love going somewhere new to bird. You know, and I'm sure you'll agree with that.
Yeah, I had a very similar thing in 2011. I was invited by a friend who had booked 4 days, 4 days of being guided in Spain. And Spain was not even on my radar I was living in the U.S. then, and yet I had this opportunity to go to Spain and bird for a year, and that was a year, but bird for 4 days. And that was just as you said. It was everything was new. Everything was a lifer. Everything was. I saw a lammergeier, which was amazing, although it was like a mile off. But you know, I looked at it through the scope with the guide.
Wow.
Yeah. That going to somewhere completely, you know, that you'd never been before, and that was really a case of the birds leading me there. I had no. I mean, Spain is cool. You know, I would like to, if I had utterly unlimited resources, I would like to see everywhere. You know, I mean, that's. But Spain was not like at the top of my I want to go to. I just ended up. Birds gave me the opportunity, and I went.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So much to talk about, and I think. And I think going back to your book as well, and the impact that's had also on younger birders and newer birders, not necessarily younger birders, but people who are getting into it for the first time. If there's any tips or any ideas that you have for them to progress and make progress in birding, do you have any tips or ideas about that? Any words of wisdom?
I do indeed. Believe it or not, I do have words. No, it's people used to ask me. I made my living as an entertainer, as R. Bruce, and I traveled all over the U.S. touring, doing predominantly comedy venues, and that's where I made my living. And people would ask, you know, about doing comedy and particularly, and as well as music and funny songs, and they'd say, you know, do you have advice for people? And the advice that almost anyone with experience at that in entertainment would say: stage time. Get stage time. Anytime you can get on stage and perform, do it. Stage time. And I realized that's exactly what I would advise people who are starting out birding. Except instead of stage time, it's birding time. The more you bird, the better you get at it. You know, the more times you see, you know, whatever fly across in front of you, the better you get it going. No, that was I mean, just like you can see a black kite at a glance,
Yeah.
now. 10 years ago, I would have had to, let me look at it and see, is it got a forked tail? Is it, this, but now, you're used to seeing how it, the jizz of the bird as they refer to it. But that's the thing. Go birding.
Yeah.
Get a good field guide, and not necessarily just a field guide, meaning something you can carry with you, but the Australian bird guide, which is too big to carry in your pocket birding. But if you're a new birder, it should be in your car anyway. But get out and bird.
Yeah, that's a great. That is a really good answer. Like it may seem obvious, but actually, not really. Like it's sort of like practice. It's like music, and I'm a musician as well, actually.
It's exactly like music.
Yeah, and the way you get good at music is by practicing, and especially if on the guitar, or if you have stage fright and you wanna kind of conquer that. It's like, do the thing that you want to get good at more. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think I touched on this. I'm not sure if you saw the episode with David Adam that I did last season, in season one, episode 10, because he's also a musician, and I had a great time talking to him also about he's great.
He's a very good musician. See, he's a proper muso. I mean, he's a incredible guitarist. I've sat and played with him before. I play guitar pretty good because I made my living with a guitar in front of a microphone, but it was a tool for me. And I was at work and I would put the tool down when I got home from work. And, I'm still, to this day, I'm not a guy that, sits around and plays guitar. I don't. I performed. I love performing, sharing my, music and words with people. But sitting around by myself, I'll watch TV, But go ahead. What did David have to say?
Well, I just mentioned that because we spoke about the parallels between the joy of birding and the joy of music, not necessarily only performing, but just playing and even listening to great music. There is a sense of euphoria or joy. He said, he put it as euphoria, especially when performing, which I really found interesting because the parallels are difficult to kind of distinguish, when you see an amazing bird and when you listen to amazing music, it's like, what's the difference?
Yeah, it's same, dopamine. It's brain chemicals going, whee!
Yeah.
It is, yeah. It is. So that there absolutely is that connection. I'm trying to think if I'm so steeped in the second book that they blur the lines of what I wrote about in the first book and in the second book. I must have talked about Life for High.
Yeah, of course. I love that. Yeah, Life for High. Yeah.
And Life for High, I talk about it quite a bit in the second book because lifers get harder to come by, and so that's similar to what you're talking about the euphoria, of what good music can make you feel. That reflecting on that, that I finally just saw a yellow-rumped mannequin, that reverberated through me for days afterwards. That was a bogey bird that I didn't see in the book, and but I did finally. I drove up to Catherine and saw one.
Wow. Yeah. I love that. There's also quite a lot of humor in the book as well, which I think, never lose your sense of humor. If you start to get too serious about it all, then the joy kind of declines, I would argue. But if you keep it kind of light and do you see what I'm trying to say? Like, don't make it too serious.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can't be too serious. I mean, I can't be. I can't not be funny if I think of something funny.
Yeah.
So in my writing, the funny parts happen. They're not so much that, oh, isn't he clever? He thought of this funny thing. It was there. I just wrote it down. It just came out. It just happened. So
Yeah. No, absolutely.
so
Yeah.
there's a lot there, and there's a lot of funny stuff in the second book. There are more. I wouldn't say more. There's funny stuff in the first book too. But yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really did, and I can't wait to read the next installment. It's really it must be really fulfilling to have this platform where you can write and know that a lot of people will read it. I imagine. I mean, I was talking to Tim Dolby for one of these episodes. It's not out yet at time of recording, but it will come out soon. And we were talking about his follow-up. Well, actually, the book that you had, the Dolby Clark Finding Australian Birds book, was quite vital for you guys as well. There it is. Oh, where's my copy? It's over there. Yeah.
Look at the condition that's in, though. And that's what I've left it like that, with the sticky notes stuck in it and all, from when John was helping us plan the route.
Right.
We sticky noted pages regarding specific birds. And this rode all the way around Australia with us.
Yeah.
I mean, the things that are,
it's just amazing. Yeah. And so the reason I bring that up is that he said that the market, the target audience for a book like that it can be argued that it's quite small, but then he said, "Oh no, because all the British birders and American birders that come over are going to also get this book to help them out." And so it's quite similar to your books, I would argue, because it sheds a light on Australian birding, and so there's actually quite a big market for a book like that. I would say.
I hope so. The book is done very well in Australia predominantly, but we also had issues with distribution in the U.S. Had to do with the shipment that was held up for, this has to do with the virus, I think. I don't know, but yeah, I wrote the book, honestly. In the back of my head, I was writing it more to American birders and friends there that hadn't been to Australia, and I mean, that was sort of explaining things. That's why I put a glossary in there that had Aussie terms.
Yeah.
In it, but it is. It's an hopefully internationally interesting book to birders all around the world. I mean, we know there's a guy in Finland likes it a lot.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, and so it's all really interesting to talk about the publishing world as well and all of that. But we're going to have to wrap up soon, unfortunately, because the time's running short. But there is one more question that I'm interested in asking you, which is the obligatory question, and you probably have thought about it. Oh, here we go. Which is, what's your favorite bird, Bruce Richardson?
As everyone, I would imagine that, and I will go back and listen to David's. I'd like to listen to all of the podcasts, but I imagine a lot of people say, I can't pick just one, or it's too hard to pick just one. And it is. There are several that hit the top group. One would be Southern Cassowary, just because it's like going to Jurassic Park or something when you see your first living dinosaur walking about. That bird is that's close to the top. So Plains Wanderer, which I have a tattoo of. That's Plains Wanderer there.
Oh,
Idiomus
yeah.
torquacius.
Wow. That's so cool. Yeah.
Letterwing Kite is one of my favorites. That's an upside down letterwing kite.
There it is. Yeah. That's inspiring. That's so cool.
Princess Parrot, which I did go out into that's in the second book. We went on the great Princess Parrot expedition into the North Gibson Desert. That was phenomenal.
Wow.
But so yeah, favorite bird is I love apostle birds. I do love them. They're one of my favorite birds. And that's what one of my favorite birds comes up a lot. But if I've got to choose one, Southern Cassowary, just because.
Yeah.
Look at it for a while and go, somebody made that up. That's not real. I mean, if the red and blue wattles weren't enough, then it's got this, what the hell is that on top of its head,
And the velociraptor claw as well.
Yeah.
That it has on the big, it's amazing up there, isn't it? So many hard choices, and my favorite bird kind of changes with each, with each outing, really. I see, every time I go out to bird, I see, I'll usually have a highlight, and it's like, oh, this bird is incredible. Like I'm still kind of on a channel build cuckoo high. I love those.
Oh,
they're so great. Yeah.
Very special bird me too.
Yeah.
That's a bird that's just, oh my God. It's an oh my God bird,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's quite prehistoric in the same way that the cassowary is, because it's like the pterodactyl. I can't get enough of it. And up here on the Coffs Coast, there's a lot of them at this time of year as well. So it's really, really nice.
Oh, wait till you see an Abbott's booby. Talk about pterodactyl looking. The length and elegance of the wings it's so anyway.
Yeah.
We can.
We could go on for hours.
Yes, I know that.
And I don't know how many listeners we've got at this point, but Bruce, it's been such a beautiful time. So thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been fantastic.
Oh, thank you for having me on the show. I mean, this is promoting my book as well as giving me an opportunity to talk about something that I am passionate about and babble about it, and just it's fun. Thank you.
Righto. Well, thanks so much, and hopefully we see each other in the field sometime. I always say this at the end of my episodes, and it would be great to meet you in person.
I hope so. Where are you based?
Just north of Coffs Harbour, mid-north coast, New South Wales.
Okay.
Yeah. It's since October last year. So I've been really enjoying the birds, because originally I was in Melbourne, and now I'm up here. So it's a big shift birding wise. Absolutely.
Yeah. A lot of yep.
So yeah. Okay. Well, I'll see you next time, Bruce. Thanks so much again. Bye bye.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You have been listening to the Birding Today podcast. New episodes are released every Friday, and if you'd like to get in touch, just write an email to birdingtoday@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.